Hey everybody, we're live here on the Eagle Eye Podcast presented by Nissan. We're out here at the Rivers Casino Philadelphia Sportsbook. Rube, how you doing?
Doing great.
Yeah, excited.
You all recovered from your red eye?
I have a little bit. I got some good sleep last night. I'm feeling good, energetic. No like hangover from that red eye. I'm feeling good.
Good.
He's Reuben Frank.
Watch him fall asleep in the middle of the pod.
I'm Dave Zangaro. You won't bore me that much. I normally stay awake. We do have a lot to talk about today. Jalen Hurts coming off another really nice performance after some early season struggles. So we'll get into a little bit about what we saw from him on Sunday, really the last 2 weeks. We want to talk about Jaylen Carter. I tried to send him to the Hall of Fame. Nick Sirianni pumped the brakes a little bit on that, but he's obviously been really great so far. We have some offensive things to talk about, some defensive things to talk about, and then I'll just get a thought from you about the Jets before we wrap up, before we really get into it on Thursday's pod. But I mentioned Jalen Hurts. I thought he had a really nice game, his best game so far this season. I know he had the one interception, but it was kind of a miscommunication thing. What did you see from him on Sunday?
Yeah, I just see a guy who each week seems to be more and more comfortable. He's got a new offensive coordinator, a new quarterbacks coach. A lot's changed. And when I look back, maybe it was naive to expect him to just pick up where he left off last year as an MVP candidate down the stretch. He wasn't bad early. There were some clunky moments, but I think the last 2 weeks we've really seen a guy who's got pretty good command of the offense and very comfortable running what he's running and doing what it takes to give the team the best chance to win. I mean, they won all those games early when he wasn't at his best, which is great. But I just think each week he's gotten a little more comfortable, a little more. He just looks better, and the stats don't really indicate that as much as you might think.
Yeah, I think it's all about what you see.
Yeah, the eye test does.
Yeah, early in the season he looked uncomfortable in the pocket, and I think some of that was the defenses they were playing and the scheme from those coordinators. Now, they did a lot to take Jalen out of the game. They still won the game, partly because they did so much to take him out. But Bill Belichick and Brian Flores they're gonna throw some junk at you, and they did. And Jalen didn't look great. And all this is like nitpicky stuff in a way because like this team has won every game, but you looked back at like the first 3 wins and you thought, okay, well, is this the product that they're going to put out all year? And if it is it good enough? And I don't think it was. And the key component to that was Jalen Hurts needs to be Jalen Hurts for this team to go as far as they want to go. And like we're talking about the Super Bowl, like we should be talking about the Super Bowl and talking about playing to that standard. And I thought that was like one reason to be a little concerned early, but I think the last 2 weeks he's looked so comfortable. Back-to-back 300-yard passing games. That one interception, like I mentioned, was miscommunication.
And in the mid-60s completion percentage. And then we saw him run on Sunday after I wrote a big story about how Nick doesn't want him to run that much. He had 15 carries, a couple kneel downs in there, but
big runs, important runs,
big
first down
runs, big conversions. I think he had 3 first down runs. He's got the most first down rushing attempts in the NFL. And he hasn't run that much. But those, like, if you score, it's a first down. Like so those keepers are all first downs, and they add up. But I didn't mind that he ran when it was there. It's a weird thing because, you want him to be safe, and Nick talked about that, and that's paramount. Is you have to have him as close to 100% as possible going into the postseason. But he's such a playmaker with his legs that when you're scuffling a little bit and you need that big first down and it's 3rd and 8 and everyone's covered, you're not going to tell him to take a knee after 3 yards. So it's kind of a strange balance. And I think that's part of maybe why we saw Jalen look a little uncomfortable early. I think he was trying to balance all that, figure out.
He didn't try to balance it on Sunday.
No, he didn't. No, that was back to old Jalen. He had 70-plus yards. And he took off when it was the right thing to do. He's still looking down the field, still going to throw it when
he did take some shots.
He did.
And I think there are going to be those moments when he's in that aggressive bag where you're like, you watch him and you hold your breath every time he's about to take a big hit like that. And there were some moments on Sunday in L.A. where, it didn't look great.
Yeah. We've seen Eagles quarterbacks get hurt in L.A. This was Inglewood, so it's different. But, yeah, and that's the thing. It's just it's a concern when that happens, and the more he runs, the more big hits he's going to take. But when he's making big plays, it's like, how do you tell him don't do that? So
here's my question: can you get aggressive running Jaylen who finishes with a slide? I don't know if those they're kind of like diametrically opposed in a way. It's like you either have the aggressive mindset or you don't with him. I don't know if there's a middle ground, because ideally you want to find the middle ground. You want to eliminate the unnecessary risk, but you want him to keep that aggressive mindset. You want him to be able to move the ball on the ground because it's one of his superpowers, right? That's one of the things that makes him who he is. I right now we haven't seen them be able to harness both sides of that.
Yeah, maybe it's not possible.
I don't know.
I mean, when there was one play on the sideline where, I mean, he was stopped like 3 yards short of the sticks, and man, he just kept fighting and fighting and fighting, and he took some hits, and he got the first down. How do you tell him don't do that?
It's a tricky thing, and then but you see the one where I thought he was about to break his ankle. His foot came down weird on the one run, and I just think you're gonna have those moments where you have to hold your breath. I don't know the answer. I asked the question, I posed it without an answer myself. I think there has to be a middle ground. I think you're always trying to find it, but there's multiple elements because you have the aggressive mindset versus the mindset of protecting himself. On the flip side of that, it's like, where do the coaches play into this with the designed running part of this? I think a lot of what we're talking about is off schedule stuff.
Sure.
There's certainly an element to this that are design runs or RPOs or read options that kind of change the game too.
Yeah, and I was looking that up. I mean, their RPO numbers are about the same. They haven't gone down. If they have, it's very small, which is a little surprising to me. But like you said, I think it's something they're going to just keep looking at, and I think he's gonna have to find some of that middle ground. But I mean, I think as long as he can make plays the way he made plays Sunday, I just don't think it's going to change.
Yeah, and it's the ones on third down. It's like a 3rd and 9, and no one's open. Everything's covered up. It's just such a luxury to have a quarterback who can take off and pick up the first down with his legs, because not only do you stay on the field, not only does it continue your drive, but it's demoralizing for defenses because they did everything right and it still didn't matter.
Yeah, and I wonder how they're going to cover, how they're going to defend the Eagles differently if he starts running more, because now you have to account for it. Now somebody's open. So it's going to be an evolving equation, I guess, moving forward. But he looked like the old Jaylen, which I wasn't sure we'd see. What was it, 15 carries for 72 yards?
Yeah, but not the old Jaylen.
No.
Just the old Jaylen. Because the old, I thought earlier in the season he looked like the old Jaylen. Now he's just back to the old Jaylen.
Yeah, the previous Jaylen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There are different iterations of Jaylen.
Yeah, and he's only in his 4th year. But he's playing at a high level, and I think he is. I think he's finding that comfort level, and it's funny because we made such a big deal about how Brian Johnson has known him since he was, a toddler. I don't think that necessarily translates into immediate. I'm the offensive coordinator, you're the quarterback. We're going to make this happen at a high level from day one. But I think they've worked on it. The more time they spend together in these specific roles, the better it's going to look. And I think we're starting to see that.
Yeah, I think there's a comfort growing between the two of those guys. And they're two really important parts of this puzzle. I think the familiarity helps a little bit in that, I feel like they're able to have open dialogue.
Sure.
And really get to where they need to be a little quicker than maybe two guys who started off as strangers. But you're right. Just to think they're going to just hit the ground running, probably a little foolish on our part.
Yeah, and I probably made that mistake a little bit. I thought they would just pick up. I thought Jaylen would just pick up where he left off in Glendale. And it's taken a few weeks, but if you can get those W's while you're in that process, that's a pretty good thing.
And that's the thing. Whenever it's funny because part of our job is to find out what isn't working and how the Eagles can fix it. That's just inherent in what we do, right? It's I asked about Quez Watkins the other day because he's not playing very well, and we're trying to find where can this team get better, and the Eagles do that too. The benefit of having a team like this with all this talent is they're 5-0, and they finally played their best game against the Rams, and even then there are still things to clean up. There's something to be said. Good teams just find ways to win, and I know that's cliche. but it's true because they can win in different ways. And like you think about all the great teams, like obviously the Chiefs are on the cusp of having this dynasty, but they have maybe the best quarterback we've ever seen. I think like to the Patriots always they morphed year to year, and they just like figured out what worked, and then they ran it and they won. I kind of think the Eagles are similar in some ways.
How so?
Because you have like, all right, this is going to be the A.J. Brown game, and then they have all these offensive weapons. They're going to just say, oh, no, we'll run the ball in this game to be effective. And then on defense, you have playmakers on that side of the ball. They can win the game where they only score 23 points because their defense shuts them out in the second half. I think part of that's just having a really good roster, and I think that's a little bit natural, but I think there is something to be said for coaching in that element too.
Well, I think to me there's a really clear offensive philosophy, which is throw to build the lead, run to keep the lead. Mm-hmm. And with this O-line and this talent, it's perfect because they can do it. They have the weapons outside down the field, and they have the running backs and Jalen's part of that equation. So I think that's the one thing, and I think that was kind of a Shane Steichen. I think that's where it kind of started because they weren't doing that those first few games when Nick was calling the plays. It was a Shane thing. It worked, and they just kept doing it. That's something Brian Johnson has adopted.
It's nice to have that talent, though, where you can just always try to dictate.
Yeah, and I think to a great extent that's where they are now. If they converted a higher level in the red zone, they'd be able to do it more. I mean, they're still at the point late in some games where they've got to throw to get points. The Washington game, obviously, but in the first couple of weeks. But I think it's a really elegant way to play offensive football, and it really works.
Yeah, it helps. I mean, the talent is it wins out a lot of times. And you have the offensive line. That's the nice thing about this team is they can go on these long drives and milk the clock the way a lot of teams can't. A lot of times, if a team's going to try to run the football on you and everyone knows you're going to run the football, you're going to stop it. It's not that easy to stop this Eagles team.
Yeah, I mean, in their time of possession, I think they've got 3 games over 37 minutes already this year, which is crazy. I think that they've never had more than 4.
And you asked Sean Desai, it was a good question, and I think he appreciates the thought here, is that like it helps the defense. They're so fresh at the end of games. That's why you have Hassan Reddick playing like 38 snaps, and he's able to get back-to-back sacks in the fourth quarter. Yeah,
and that's what made me think about that this morning when I was kind of thinking about what I wanted to ask those guys. You look at, I mean, they pressured so well late in that game, which they didn't always early in that game. But, yeah, you got guys who are playing 20 minutes. Even if you play every snap, you're playing 20 minutes. So by the end of the game, you're still fresh. And that's why time of possession to me is one of my favorite stats because it's kind of an offensive and defensive stat combined, kind of like giveaway takeaways as well.
Snap counts, sir. They do the trick too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Eagles offense had 78 plays?
Yeah, they had 22 more plays than the Rams.
56, I think, right?
Yeah, something like that.
On defense. So, yeah, I mean, that's a really good recipe. And it's not going to work every week, but you try to do this first.
Yeah, and I mean, the ability to run into a loaded box, I mean, it's really unusual. And somebody asked Brian Johnson today at his presser about Kenny Gainwell's rushing numbers. I mean, has he had a carry that hasn't been into a loaded box this year? So he's kind of doing what he's being asked to do is get those tough yards when there's, 8 guys up front.
I have no problem with the play distribution of running back right now.
I don't either.
Yeah.
Let's see a little more Boston. But
I'd be fine with that. But that's not like a...
No, it's not a huge... I know.
And I think part of it is yes, I think DeAndre Swift is clearly the more explosive runner. He's clearly the bigger and better weapon. And I think at times he should be out there instead of Kenny. And I think sometimes they fumble that a little bit. But for the most part, I like the split. It's more DeAndre than Kenny, significantly more DeAndre than Kenny. You have Kenny in those tough situations like you mentioned, and you're keeping DeAndre Swift healthy, which is a big deal for this team in the long term. Yeah,
that's huge. I got no problem with Gainwell. Would like to see a little more Boston, but that's a very minor thing. I don't really worry about his stats and his numbers. The eye test says he's getting some tough yards. I mean, there's a time where
I was glad that Brian Johnson brought up the third down catch.
That was a great play.
It was a great play because Brian's right. He chipped before going out for that route, and then he runs through contact. It was the nickel corner. It was 14 versus 14, which I always appreciate. But
and I saw Josh Allen sack Josh Allen.
Oh, I like that.
Earlier
that's
in the
fun.
day. Yeah,
that's fun. But it was Brian Johnson's right. That was a huge play in that game, and it goes down as a 6-yard catch.
I think it was Aaron Donald.
Yeah, it was that he chipped Aaron Donald.
Yeah.
It goes down as a 6-yard catch, and you go, "Well, that's nice." But like, no, that was a huge play in the game.
Yeah. So
we agree with them. Like, we like their distribution at running back. Let's talk about the receiver position.
Dave and his segues.
That was a good one.
He's in midseason
form. I don't
form.
know if it works as well when you point them out, but Quez Watkins got a ton of burn in that game. His first game back from a hamstring injury, he had missed 2 games. Way more than Olamide Zaccheaus. We kind of asked this amongst ourselves in the pod leading up to the game. Like, I wonder what this distribution is going to look like. Is it going to even out more than it was in week 1? And it was almost identical to when they were both healthy in week 1.
Yeah, what was it, 52-9?
Yeah.
Was that the final snap count? I was surprised. I think there's a role for Quez, but it's not getting the ball in traffic in the red zone, certainly. It's just not what he's good at. And I'm not sure that's what OZ's good at either, but Quez is a deep threat, and if you want to use him as a deep threat, as a decoy, stretch the defense, that's fine. But in the red zone, that's not his game.
Yeah, and that was Nick's point. I asked him about the disparity because it was 52-9 in this game. In week 1, it was 52-7. So
it's an average of 52-8.
That's good. That's good mathing out of you. I wondered because I thought Olamide did some nice things, and it wasn't just the touchdown catch. I thought he showed something as a blocker too, which is an important part of his role. And it's not going to be Quez's game. Like, that's not, and I don't think that's a knock on him. It's not like Olamide is a big guy either, but he showed some willingness in that one, that the long AJ touchdown. Him and Devontae were downfield blocking. So I saw enough from Olamide to think that maybe they would get him some more snaps, and they really didn't. Yeah, honestly, it was 52. Yeah, it's got to even out a little bit. Yeah,
and I look, I just don't have a ton of faith in Quez right now. I just don't. Mm-hmm. They do.
They clearly do. And Nick
it.
has at every turn tried to publicly show confidence in Quez, whether it goes back to the spring when he singled him out as having a great OTA period. And even when I asked him on Monday about the snap disparity, and his point was that Quez does things that don't show up in the stat sheet, which, look, that part of that's true. I buy into that his speed does have to be accounted for, but he has to make more of his opportunities, because we saw in 2021 when he was getting fed the rock a lot, he was good. Last year when his role changed, he wasn't as good. And it's not. We know he's not going to get the target share, and I don't think anyone is expecting him to put up the 2021 stats. That would be foolish. What I think people are expecting from him is when he gets the opportunities, he makes the most of them, and he hasn't done that.
Yeah. I mean, Olamide had that 2 for 58 game, and Quez hasn't had a game where he made that kind of impact in. He might have had one game early last year where he had some big catch.
And it's important to point out that that long touchdown to Olamide, it was an off-schedule play. They didn't design it for him, and that's where you have to get in where you have to fit in. Get in where you fit in. Is that
Now in Quez's defense, he was open in the end zone. I think on the one that Jalen went to Devontae on the right sideline,
jumping up and down, trying to get in the bench.
Yeah, he might still be jumping up and down. So, I mean, he got open on that. I don't know Jalen's trust level in throwing to Quez in that situation.
I just don't think he saw him.
That's more likely. But he was wide open. So
someone's that wide open, throwing the ball.
Yeah, pretty much. So it's not like it's been a disaster with him, but
no, I thought, you brought up a good point that 3rd and 2 in the red zone, we both understand that he stretches the field and that's his value. He's not stretching the field from the 16-yard line. And Brian Johnson brought it up. It's wider than it is long down there. So I don't understand their infatuation with the bubble screen to Quez Watkins. This is going back a few years. I don't get it. I don't think it's a valuable play.
And he just doesn't.
You have A.J. Brown. Why are you throwing bubble screens to Quez Watkins?
Quez doesn't have I don't know if it's instincts or just a feel for for traffic. It's just not a play that he's going to.
Everyone was frustrated, and they had a right to be. They had hat for hat out there. It was 2-on-2, and you got to pick up that yard.
Yeah. Yeah, that was
2 yards.
2 yards. That was
but
baffling.
I'm not calling for like benching Quez Watkins.
No.
I still think, and my theory.
Well, where would you like to see that 52-9 go?
I'm fine if Quez still has more, but it's got to balance out a little bit.
Yeah. I wouldn't mind seeing it being close to 50-50, honestly.
And I think that would be valid. Like, I don't think that's crazy to talk about. And the reason I've always liked Quez in this third role is because theoretically, someone with that kind of game-breaking speed and that deep ball ability is a nice fit to have as the third receiver because, again, in theory, he can change a game with one play. It's not going to take a ton of targets. But OZ, as he's not as fast as Quez, he has just as many deep balls.
Yeah, absolutely. He's got a higher career yards per catch, although that probably has something to do with the plays they called for Quez.
I mean, the spamming the Quez bubble screens does not make sense to me.
Yeah, that's a weird one. We'll see how it goes. We'll see where they go from here. And all the other thing about that third receiver, you're almost all the time getting the other team's third corner, so there should be opportunities for that guy.
Yeah, but sometimes like they'll move. We'll see a Devontae or AJ snap in the slot, and they'll move these guys around.
But in general, yeah, for the most part.
Yeah. We mentioned the 3rd and 2 to Quez in the red zone. That is an example of play calling being an issue in the red zone. I don't think that has been the only issue in the red zone. I think execution has hurt them. I think getting behind the sticks has hurt them, but they haven't been very good. This is a red zone offense that was very good last year. They are not this year. What gives?
Yeah, and I was looking at some numbers last night. So
That's shocking.
I invented a stat. Which is points per red zone possession, because like the NFL tracks touchdowns per possession, but you can't get. So I think the
red zone possession.
Yeah, per red zone possession. To me, the one that's important is points per possession. So now this is weird because they're sitting, according to the NFL's rankings, they're 27th. According to points per possession, they're 28th. So it's very close. They're averaging under 4 yards or 4 points per red zone possession. They've had 21. They have 8 touchdowns. That's pretty low, and 9 field goals. There have been 4 where they didn't score, which is the most in the league. But they've also had a lot of red zone possessions because they have a great offense. But I do think it's been something different each time. It's been a penalty. There's been 1 turnover. It's been a bad play call. And then the stats are a little skewed because the Tampa game and Sunday in L.A., they got down inside the 20 and were just not trying to score. Mm-hmm. So if you take those out, they go from like 28th to about 22nd, which isn't great, but
even the last possession of this game, they would have preferred to pick up that first down, but it wasn't like they were going to go to the air, so their playbook was limited.
Right. So that's why I'm not super concerned, because like if it was a deal where Jalen just kept turning it over or fumbling or throwing interceptions or they just kept having penalties. If it was one thing, now maybe it's easier to fix if it's one thing, but I think it's maybe just fluky more than anything, where it's just been kind of a series of.
I think there's some fluky element to it, but I think there are things they need to clean up.
Well, I'll say this. I think by the end of the year, I'd be surprised if they're not in the top 10.
Well, they better be.
Yeah.
I mean,
but to get from 27th, 28th to the top 10, it's going to take a lot of efficiency. But when I look at this offense, this line, the weapons they have, the quarterback, and a play caller who seems to be getting more comfortable each week, I'm pretty confident they're going to turn that around.
To me, it looks like they've lost a little aggressiveness at times.
In
the red zone, and the one time they didn't was when Jalen throws the interception. But so I have the 6 red zone appearances in this last game. So the first one, they set up a 3rd and goal from the 6, touchdown to Dallas Goedert. There's a success. The second one was the 3rd and 2 from the 15, bubble screen to Quez Watkins.
That's play calling.
The third one was the Hurts interception from the 20-yard line. Nick Sirianni was clearly not happy about that decision.
You think?
He lost it a little bit. But also, it was a play that we've seen them hit, the back shoulder to A.J. It looked like A.J. was going deeper than Jalen expected. And it was a nice play by the defensive back who kind of sat on that back shoulder throw. The fourth one was they set up a 1st and 10 from the Rams 11. They had a run for 3 yards, an incompletion, set up a 3rd and 7 incompletion. They got heated up a little bit there.
Yeah.
And then the next one, there's some similarities because they set up a 3rd and 8. So you have 3rd and 7 and 3rd and 8 in the red zone. That's tricky.
Yeah. It's a lot of yards down there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And what was that play?
What, the final play?
Yeah.
It ended up being a Hurts run for 0 yards.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, each one's different. And it's basically been the Tampa game in this game.
Yeah. And then the last one was, of course, the turnover on downs. They had a 4th and 2. They gained a yard. I thought it was closer than.
I thought he converted it, honestly.
Yeah, it was funny. Everyone just ran off the field. I was like, I don't know if and then they reviewed it and
they're never going to overturn.
That's a tough 20 bodies.
You just can't. You can't see. And look, it didn't really matter in the big picture. But there was so little time left, but that counts against the stats. But yeah, I thought he had the first down.
I did too, actually.
Yeah.
Never got a good enough replay to.
Could they put like a GPS device on the tip of the football?
I don't know.
Both tips of the football, I guess.
Yeah, you would need that. It would just take the back. Like you have to make sure the chip side is forward.
Or what if you're holding? You don't really ever see a guy holding it like horizontally.
That'd be weird.
Yeah, that'd be weird.
Well, if it's like tucked, maybe.
Yeah, maybe. But I just wonder, in all seriousness, if there's a way for the technology to kind of catch up to the play, because there's so many bodies there. It's just nobody really knows where the ball's going and when he's down, when the whistle is. And I had a question. When they review a play, do they have audio? Can they hear when the whistle is?
Yeah, I would think so.
Okay. Because that's pivotal in a lot of replays.
Yeah, I never thought of that, but I would think they would have to.
All right.
Because they'll have like
if it got fumbles, but it's after the whistle, it's trying to get extra yards.
Yeah, I think they have to know that.
They have to know when the whistle is.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because forward progress is ruled, and
yeah,
the whistle dictates that.
Yeah, we need a rules analyst.
Yeah, all those guys are cowards.
Oh yeah, they never disagree with the refs.
For the most part, they're
it's
cowards.
The clearest bad call, like the one on Slay in the
DPI.
Yeah,
the
2 weeks ago.
The rules guy agreed.
Yeah.
Oh
yeah. I'm pretty sure there was one really bad one in that game where the rules guy agreed. They agree with everything because they're pals, they're friends. They don't want to. Anyway.
Yeah, I shouldn't say they're all cowards. They act cowardly at times.
That's better.
Yeah. I don't want to get Dean Blandino showing up at my door.
He's a coward. He wouldn't show up. He'd email you.
That's probably true. All right, let's take a little break, and we'll get into some Jaylen Carter and Nakobe Dean and some other stuff on the other side.
The Georgia guys segment.
You deserve a car that thrills you, a car that puts goosebumps on your goosebumps. At Nissan, we've got everything from turbocharged SUVs to 100% electric vehicles that'll make your heart beat faster. Experience the thrill for yourself and shop your local Nissan store and nissanusa.com today.
Catch all the sports action and more at Rivers Casino Philadelphia. Whether it's the money line or the pass line, there's something for everyone in a great sports book. Rivers Casino Philadelphia. Philly loves a winner. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
So, Rube, in our post-game pod, I tried to put Jaylen Carter in the Hall of Fame after 5 games.
You kind of did.
Nick Sirianni.
You were kind of delirious at that point.
Nick Sirianni pushed back a little bit. Not necessarily to me, but I think about people are excited about this kid, and they should be.
Wait, you think he wasn't responding to what you said?
I don't think it was a direct response. But he said, we're not going to put the kid in Canton yet. I'm paraphrasing. It's about consistency, and that's true. It's like, this is a nice start. But the greatness of a player is obviously determined by how they perform week after week, year after year.
True, but what you said, and which I still think is accurate, is he's playing at a Hall of Fame level.
The potential is there.
Like if he plays the way he did the first 5 games, if he plays like that for 12 years, he's a Hall of Famer.
If I always think about it in my mind like this: if you had to bet on the Eagles who are most likely to make it to the Hall of Fame, you would obviously bet on the guys who are already there first. Then you'd bet like Kelsey.
Oh, I thought you meant like Harold. Or
No.
Tommy McDonald.
No, like the guys who've already done
there.
enough.
Okay.
And then you'd probably bet on the guys who still have a really good shot, like a Fletcher Cox, who's close, but he needs a couple more years. After that, you're going on potential. You put Jaylen Carter, right at the top, maybe not right at the top of the list, but pretty close to the top of that list.
Who you put on the top of the list?
Of like the potential guys? Probably Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown.
Who's higher?
Right now, A.J. Brown.
Interesting. I think Jalen's higher.
Okay.
Just because there's such a glut of receivers.
That's fair.
But, he's definitely at that level. I actually looked this up, and this one took way too much time. He's the 10th fastest ever to 5,000 yards.
AJ.
Yeah, so basically I took the game finder and I set it for like 45 games. And like the most was like Randy Moss with like 40. And then I just added a game and anyone who went over 5,000 since the last screen. So I went up to like 65 games that AJ's played. So
I'm guessing a ton of greats.
Yeah,
faster.
Yeah. But it's surprising who's not in that list, like Jerry Rice. Let me see if I can find it while you're talking. I have it here somewhere. Like Randy Moss. Justin Jefferson is in there.
I like that you say, let
Just
me find
talk.
it while you're talking and you haven't stopped talking.
Maybe I put it in my here it is. Jerry Rice isn't there. My bad. So Justin Jefferson's fastest 52 games, which is crazy.
That's insane.
Odell Beckham, looks like I spelled his name wrong. Beckham.
People forget how great he was.
Yeah.
It's a shame.
Julio, 56 games. Michael Thomas, 58. Randy Moss, then Jerry, Torrey Holt, A.J. Green. He's not even the top of A.J. A.J. Green had some great years. And then Anquan Bolden. And then A.J., Mike Evans, Larry Fitz, and Isaac Bruce all tied at 65 games.
Wow.
And I want to get that out there because that took like 2 hours.
That's elite company.
Yeah, it really is. He's so good.
And he's taken his game to a new level. He was great in Tennessee.
Yeah.
He's better.
And he's got a better quarterback and a quarterback that really is. He's looking for him. We talked about him after the game, and I know he's not like on our script right here, but he's so much better than I thought. Like I knew he was really good, but I've never seen a guy play at this level so consistently and just so physical. The way he takes it to D-backs. It's fun to watch.
Yeah. We were so quick to get off script there.
Yeah.
It was good get off by us.
It was.
Who else has good get off? Jaylen Carter.
Yeah.
That was a stretch, that one.
It was.
That wasn't great. I've been so impressed by him. And we talked about it in the post game, so I'm repeating myself a little bit, but I think it bears mentioning.
As a Hall of Famer, you got to, keep bringing it up.
I knew he was physically gifted. I knew he would win on his physical gifts. What I was not fully prepared for was how polished he would be as a pass rusher.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's a fair question. And I'm surprised when he doesn't get there. Sometimes he gets to the quarterback so fast, you just want to rewind it. Like, what did he just do? And he's beaten guys like so quickly. And this is 5 games. Like he's going to get better. Yeah,
and that's the goal is like to keep he. I thought he was showed a lot of humility after the game. Just saying, like he was asked if he feels, how dominant he feels, if he feels unstoppable, and he's like, unstoppable. I'm getting stopped. I'm getting stopped on plays, and I need to figure out ways to knock. Like so, it's a good mindset to have. It's kind of like the Jalen Hurts mindset. Like Jalen could play a game that we all think is perfect, and he'd be like, yeah, I missed the throw in the second quarter. Like, I think that's the right mindset to have. And anytime Jaylen Carter gets blocked, he's going to try to figure out how to not get blocked in that play the next time.
Yeah, and I asked Sean Desai about that. Like, we see the physical gifts, the power and the athleticism and the speed. But I'm just fascinated by, he's a guy who works hard. And to play at that level, you have to study film, you have to study your opponents, you have to be really engaged in meetings, and I think to have guys like BG and Fletch along with him has been so huge for him. And I think when we interview, well, when you interview Jaylen Carter in 10 years, I'm going to be.
You don't plan on being.
I'm going to be up in the mountains where Nicholas at that resort Nicholas Morrow told me to go to. But he's going to say, having Fletch and BG early in my career.
He's going to be like, where's Rube?
Yeah, where did Rube go? And Nicholas Morrow's going, I know where he is. Yeah, I just think it's just so huge. I mean, well, here's a question. Who's more likely to be a Hall of Famer, Fletch or Jaylen Carter?
Oh, man.
I mean, it's a ridiculous question.
It is a ridiculous
but
question.
It's fun.
But it is fun because I think Fletch is closer than people think.
Yeah?
Yeah. Of his era, he's probably the second best defensive tackle.
He put up the same stats as Aaron Donald Sunday. He didn't play.
Yeah.
One All-Pro, I think is going to hurt him. One
Probably.
first-team All-Pro. 3-time second-team All-Pro. 5 Pro Bowls? 6 Pro Bowls.
6 Pro Bowls.
Yeah.
Playing really well at age 32.
Yeah. 2 Super Bowls, 1 win is big.
All-decade team.
Did he make the All-Decade team?
Yeah.
That's huge for that.
Yeah.
They look at that. You could be right. Let's see what the monitor says.
Yeah, I don't think he's in yet, but I think he's closer than people realize.
Let's see what the Hall of Fame monitor has him at 76.98. That's really high.
Yeah.
That's really high. So that's higher than some guys who were in, like Buck Buchanan. I was there when he went in. It was the same year as Franco. Curly Culp. He's higher than Joe Klecko, who went in. Probably, Brian Young. He's higher than Brian Young. He's right there with Alex Karras. It's interesting. Hall of Fame monitor is great, but
Yeah, but the point is, like, Jaylen Carter.
To even have this conversation, is
After
absurd.
5 games of his career.
Yeah.
But yes, 3.5 sacks, I think 23 total pressures. He's been unbelievable.
Tackles for loss, he's got, 4?
And he's just as good in the run. He plays with a ton of effort. He's always chasing down plays from behind.
Yeah.
I've been just blown away by this kid.
Yeah, me too. He's fun.
Had a chance to talk to BG about him after the game.
Oh, yeah?
It was cool because I think Brandon, he wasn't speaking for Fletcher, but I'm sure he feels the same way. Like, they feel proud of not just Jaylen Carter, but they feel proud that the organization looks at them as guys. Like, yeah, there were a lot of questions about Jaylen Carter right up to the draft. Like, should they take him? Should they not? But they trusted in the veteran leadership to make sure that they maximized this kid, and they got him on the right track. And I think I could tell, just like BG just looked proud, not just by Jaylen Carter, but proud that the organization put that kind of faith in the veterans here.
Well, I mean, it's kind of when you look at who they are and what kind of people they are, what kind of players they've been. I mean, Fletch and BG are 2 all-time great Eagles and 2 all-time great leaders. And, I mean, if I'm Howie and that's part of the equation, I'm trusting those guys so much. And I'm sure it's the same with Jordan Davis, with whoever, Katavius Street's older. But, yeah, it's such a valuable resource. And yeah. That's an interesting conversation.
You went Contavious Street instead of Milton Williams.
Yeah, I should have gone Milton Williams there. That was bad on my part.
Moro Ojomo.
Yeah.
Yeah. Made his career debut.
He got on the field.
4 snaps.
Yeah.
Not a ton of work, but what'd you make of the way they split up those snaps? So a lot more from Milton in that game. Carter led the defensive without Fletcher. It was kind of curious to see what it looked like. Jordan Davis didn't get a big bump. Milton got a big bump.
Jordan's had a couple of quiet weeks. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'd like to see how he responds to that.
I think there are going to be those stretches with him because the pass rush early, I don't think was going to be main.
Sure, I agree with that. But
sustainable.
I mean, even as a run defender, I thought he was.
Oh.
I don't know what his numbers look like. I don't know.
I thought he looked okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think he looked bad, but hasn't made an impact. Big impact. But you're right. I mean, the nature of the position he's playing, it's not. You're not going to fill up the stat sheet. But I wasn't surprised. I don't have it in front of me. Why don't you run him down? Do you have it in front of me?
The snaps?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. So Jaylen Carter led the way with 39 snaps.
And how many defensive snaps? They played
56.
56.
So, 39 for Carter, 33 for Milton, 23 for Jordan Davis, and then Street had 16, Morrow had 4.
Yeah, so that's a lot. I mean, that's a lot for Street in the context of how many Jordan Davis got.
Yeah.
So that's a little surprising. But, I mean, Jaylen Carter is going to – and that's got to be his highest percentage, I would think, even though it's not a ton of snaps, 39 out of 56.
Yeah, I mean, by far his highest percentage.
Yeah.
It's the second most snaps he had. He had 40 in the opener. They played 80 snaps.
Yeah, so they played 25 less snaps. I wonder what's a good number for him. I think he's been a little low, but I understand it. But I think that number should go up a little bit.
Yeah, I think it has to go up because I think you have to get Fletch. Fletch has been at 70% in the games he's played.
He's been too high.
He was 65 last year. So, we're talking minor tweaks. I think he has to be a little lower, and I think you got to get Jaylen up to the point where Javon Hargrave was last year.
What did he finish at? Like 65?
A little lower than that, I believe.
62. Yeah. I'd like to see him there. I mean, I think he's shown. And look, if he has a problem,
64 for Hargrave. So he was right around.
So I said 65. You're like, oh no, it was lower than that. It was 64.
Right. I'm accurate.
Yeah, I mean, as long as he can handle it, and certainly with 39 snaps on Sunday, he didn't show any sign of slowing down.
No, he looked great at the end of the game.
When you have to play 20 minutes, you can be fresh at the end of the game. So, I think, and it's tough because every game's different. Some games you're playing so many more snaps, but they got so much depth there that if they do have another game where they have to play that many snaps, I mean, I think he can handle it.
Yeah, I mean, it's the beauty of having a 22-year-old. He's good to go.
Yeah.
Let's stick with defense. This could be the week Nakobe Dean comes back. He's been on the IR now for 4 games, so he's eligible to return. We don't know if he's going to be back, but I think all indications are that this was going to be a 4-week injury, and he's looked good on a side field.
I mean, just walking around the locker room, he doesn't look like he's injured. He's got nothing on his I mean, he's got no wrap on it or anything. So, he was out on the side field last week. I would be surprised if he's not up. I asked Sean Desai about, are you...
And they kept the roster spot open.
Right. So, and he, he's not opposed philosophically to having guys split up the position, but that's not really an answer. But I do think and again, look, Nicholas Morrow's playing better than Zach Cunningham, although Cunningham hasn't been awful. I didn't think he had a good game, particularly Sunday. But, Nakobe and Nick Morrow are both Mike linebackers, and I'm not sure you can play them both. Maybe at times.
At times. I really don't think rotating is the answer. I think you just got to stick with – and it's a shame to put Morrow on the bench, but I kind of think that's what they're going to do.
Well, could be. I mean, we really haven't seen enough of Nakobe to really know where he is. I mean, how many snaps did he play in the opener? He played 20 snaps?
Yeah.
So there's no way to know. I mean, they're not going to bench him.
No way.
I mean,
he played 49.
Oh, did he?
In the opener, yeah.
Okay, my bad. But I mean, Nicholas Morrow's your best blitzer. You can't just put him out there on 3rd and 10 and blitz him, but
I think Nakobe can blitz.
Well, we'll see.
He did it in college. He was a great blitzer in college.
Yeah, we'll see.
I know I have to go to that because we haven't seen much of him in the NFL, but that's part of the evaluation.
Yeah, I mean, the way they do things, you're probably right. It'll probably be Zach and Nakobe, like we started the season. But, I'm just curious to see if there's any kind of role for Nicholas. And, he's played really well, not just the sacks, but, he could have had that interception.
Could have had a fumble recovery, too.
Could have had a fumble recovery. But he was in position to make those plays. He's really active.
He's been better than I expected.
Yeah. Better than they expected. They wouldn't have cut him.
Yeah, I know.
And sent him up to the mountains. I love that story. But
What do you think they do with the roster, though? They have one spot open, so that can go to Nakobe, but your punter is all out of elevations.
Yeah.
You have 2 more with Bradley Roby before you got to get him on the roster.
Right.
Where do you find that spot?
Yeah, it's a good question. And I just don't know if the punter's done enough to warrant a roster spot.
Do you want to keep playing this game?
Yeah, because I think you could find a guy in the street who's as good or better than Braden Mann.
Okay.
Might be Aaron Sipos, but he doesn't have any elevations left either.
Oh, he does. He has 1.
Yeah, you're right. They cut him after 2 games. Yeah, they bring him back
For 1 game?
For 1 game and cut him again. And then, maybe someone else goes on IR. But I think they're going to get another punter in here.
Interesting.
Yeah. I don't think he's very good. I know he had the one down to the inside the 10.
Got it to the 9. His only punt.
Yeah, it was his only punt.
That game.
But like, if you can't find,
are you going to rob him of a revenge game at MetLife?
Yeah, it's his big revenge game. Yes, going to do that because I mean, even if he's not awful, the roster spot's more valuable than he is.
Potentially.
Yeah. So, or maybe, I don't know, maybe Nakobe's not ready and he signed him, but it's a little bit of juggling there. I'm sure Howie will find a creative solution.
Yeah, I mean, there's not an easy fix.
Well, the easiest fix is, as Rich Hoffman once said, sign the Zendejas of the week. Join the Zendejas of the week club. The Eagles were looking for that was a kicker. There was like 8 Zendejas. It's like, yeah, they could either sign this guy or just join the Zendejas of the week club.
I don't think they have an easy IR guy. Like maybe if Marlon Tuipulotu was hurt, but you probably would have already put him on IR.
Yeah, I mean triceps, you never know, but they could be serious.
But you would have wasted a week already.
Yeah. There's nobody else.
Yeah, not really anyone on the roster.
What's going on with Rashad Penny?
He's on ice.
You buying that illness?
Yeah, why would they make up an illness?
I don't know.
I like that you got your tinfoil hat on, but
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, they've had him inactive the other weeks anyway. I don't think they need to create an illness to have him inactive.
Yeah, you're probably right. I'm just, I'm always looking for that conspiracy theory.
I like that. Yeah, I'll get
Capricorn 1, baby.
I'll get on board with the
Fake moon
conspiracy
landing.
theory pretty quick.
O.J. Simpson running to his own funeral. You ever seen that movie?
No.
Capricorn 1.
No.
Ben's seen it. I know Ben Barry's seen it.
I don't.
You ever seen that movie?
Rube's a big fan of OJ and all his work.
And I got to tell him that in New Orleans at what's that bar called? Pat O'Brien's.
Okay.
That was before he was OJ, but I was like,
What do you
OJ,
mean?
Juice, man, you were great in Capricorn 1. He appreciated it.
Your old buddy OJ.
Phil Sheridan was with me.
That was before OJ.
Yeah, so I said it was before he was OJ.
Okay.
Yeah.
I gotcha. Okay. You guys
That was before, yes.
You guys still keeping in touch?
I haven't heard from him lately.
On the Christmas card list?
No.
Jets.
Yeah.
Obviously no Aaron Rodgers, but the bigger storyline going into this game is their offensive line is really banged up.
Yeah.
What do you make of the Jets? And have you kind of followed them a little bit from afar?
I wouldn't say I followed them.
You're not a Hard Knocks guy. I watched the Hard Knocks.
Really?
Yeah.
No, I'm not. There was a guy from Delran who was featured on that. Todd Lober. He was
Okay.
a Media Champions high jump winner. And then he never played football in college, and he signed with the Cowboys as a tight end, and he actually made the practice squad. But they picked him. I guess he was the guy that they, because he didn't really know how to be a football player, and everything was new to him.
I get it.
So he was kind of the guy they featured. But I've never really watched that.
The thing that amazed me with this Hard Knocks, it's funny, I look out on the TV and Aaron Rodgers is on with McAfee. But like the whole Hard Knocks, the whole summer was all about Aaron Rodgers. And I remember thinking at the time, I don't know if that's a good way to do this. It's just about making it. I know he's a great player, but it felt like everything was so geared toward Aaron Rodgers. And then 4 snaps in, he's gone. And it's like, how do you recover from that? I think it's really tough. Although Zach Wilson's had some moments.
He's had some moments. He played great against the Chiefs. He's been really shaky, inconsistent.
The line play is not going to help.
Line play doesn't help. He's got
that
some
defense
weapons.
is legit, too.
Their defense is good.
Quinnen Williams is one of the best. How about Sua's stretch here? He comes into a game, he's got to face Jonathan Allen and Daron Payne. The next game, he's got Aaron Donald. Then he follows it up with Quinnen Williams.
Yeah.
Murderer's row for old Sua.
Breece Hall's pretty talented.
Good running back, sure.
I think the kid from Ohio State's a good receiver.
Garrett Wilson.
So they got some young talent.
Sauce is a fantastic player.
Yeah, so they got some good individuals. What are they, 2-3? They don't score a lot of points. They've scored 40 points in 3 home games. I don't know what that means. But they lost to the Chiefs by 3. That was like their best game. But then they lost to the Patriots by 5.
Coming off a win in the Hackett Bowl.
Yeah. I'm not sure what wins over the Broncos. I think the Dolphins proved that's kind of you can't really judge a team by beating the Broncos. But imagine if the Eagles were like a really bad. What would we talk about 3 times a week on a podcast?
How bad they are.
Yeah, that gets old though.
No, it doesn't. You forget there's plenty. Sometimes there's more to talk about when a team stinks.
Yeah, maybe.
Well, it's all about. No, I'll say this: if a team stinks and they're supposed to stink, that isn't fun.
Right.
That's boring.
Right.
If a team is supposed to be good and they stink, then there's a lot to talk about.
Right. Yeah, I've covered enough really bad teams.
Mm-hmm. And sometimes I'll be honest, a team that's supposed to be good and is good can be a little boring. And we're here with this Eagles team.
Yeah, they never lose.
Ho hum, they win again. They're 5-0.
I mean,
they just don't lose with Jalen Hurts. And
if you take away the Dallas game at the end of that 51-26 game, so they would have finished that year 6-2 after the Roots Underground speech, right? 6-2, 14-3. That's 20-5, and add 5 where they're 25-5 in their last 30 meaningful games.
Yeah, they don't lose.
Don't lose.
This is special too. Like this doesn't happen very often. Like you got to kind of appreciate the moment.
First time they've been 5-0 in back-to-back years ever. Yeah, I'm not sure. Yeah, it might be a deal where it might be years before because look, they're going to win. What's the minimum number of games? Well, I don't want to jinx them or anything, but I don't believe in jinxes anyway. But they're going to win 12.
Yeah, you would think so.
To win 26 games in a 2-year span is insane. Yeah. So I don't know if we really appreciate and look, Nick, I sent out a tweet last night. Nick now has the 4th highest winning percentage in history. And I based it on more than 2 years.
Okay, that's fair.
Behind Hall of Famer Guy Chamberlain, who actually coached the Frankfurt Yellow Jackets in the 20s. John Madden, Hall of Famer. Chamberlain's a Hall of Famer. Vince Lombardi. And then Nick Sirianni's 4th. He's won 72% of his games.
He's coming for you, Vince.
He's coming for. He's got to win. I think he's got to win his next 5 to pass Vince, and then Madden. It's going to take a lot of wins to get that Guy Chamberlain.
Yeah, that's tough.
But he's got the 4th highest winning percentage in history. There's been a lot of coaches. He's just passed George Allen Sunday, Hall of Famer.
A lot of wins.
He's got the highest winning percentage of any head coach in history who's coached more than 2 years and is not in the Hall of Fame.
You see me every week at my cube at the NovaCare complex. I take the game book and write a W or an L on it.
Yes.
I write a lot of W's.
Yeah, you do.
A lot of W's.
So we've established that the Eagles are good.
at the 53 minute
an hour of this podcast.
Hey, they're a pretty
wait a
good
minute.
team.
Yeah, they're pretty good.
All right. Are we good here?
Yeah.
We want to remind everyone to please rate and subscribe wherever you get your pods. If you're watching on YouTube, please click the like button and subscribe there as well. That's it for Rube. I'm Dave. This has been the Eagle Eye podcast presented by Nissan live at the Rivers Sportsbook in Philadelphia. We'll talk to you guys soon.